What's up guys, Iceman here, and we're gonna revisit Behemoth, who was the epic titan in King of the Monsters. We only had a few glimpses of him in that film, but he was very impressive. And what's interesting is that the name itself actually comes from the Bible, the book of Job in the Old Testament. So we're gonna read some of that as well. I just can't help but wonder if we might see Behemoth again in a future MonsterVerse film. Maybe Godzilla vs. Kong. Hopefully, Godzilla vs. Kong does better in the theaters, because then maybe we can expect other MonsterVerse films, but I suppose only time will tell. You see, in the MonsterVerse, Behemoth resembled a prehistoric ground sloth with large curled tusks resembling those of a mammoth, knuckle walking, in a way reminiscent of that of a gorilla. It seems to be covered in mammoth fur, while its head is that of a mammoth, with a short, taper-like trunk. Behemoth also has a row of small flat spines running down its back. The ends of its forelimbs are tipped with broad fingers bearing very large claws, with the hind limbs being stouter for weight bearing. Due to this, Behemoth is capable of standing on his hind limbs, and his tusks appear to have some sort of green algae or vines growing on them, which is interesting because it seems that Behemoth would be very fitting for the Skull Island environment. We saw a lot of animals on Skull Island who had plants and shit growing off of them. Now, check this out, man. Here's a piece from the Bible, the book of Job, chapter 40. Behold, Behemoth, which I made, as I made you. He eats grass like an ox. Behold, his strength in his loins, and his power in the muscles of his belly. He makes his tail stiff like a cedar. The sinews of his thighs are knit together. His bones are tubes of bronze. His limbs like bars of iron. He is the first of the works of God. Let him who made him bring near his sword. For the mountains yield food for him, where all the wild beasts play. Under the lotus plants he lies, in the shelter of the reeds and in the marsh. For his shade the lotus trees cover him, the willows of the brook surround him. Behold, if the river is turbulent, he is not frightened. He is confident, though Jordan rushes against his mouth. Can one take him by his eyes, or pierce his nose with a snare? Yeah, so this explanation in the book of Job, I think, really shows the power behind this beast. But of course, the MonsterVerse iteration is a bit different, it seems. It doesn't have a tail like a cedar. In fact, it barely has a tail at all. And cedars are like humongous trees. Some folks even think the Behemoth was a Brachiosaurus or something like that. But man, whatever Behemoth is, he really was a toad. What an epic monstrosity of a beast. Apparently his fur is essentially fireproof, as fire cannot burn it. When he was walking through the city with things burning around him, it didn't seem to be affected by it, but I could be off on that. His movement leaves behind traces of radiation, which as a result grow jungle-like foliage in his path. There's been articles written of how the Amazon rainforest has been spawning more plants due to Behemoth going through it. I mean, he's really strong, man. He can use his tusks as weapons to destroy buildings with ease. He can also stand on his hind legs and swing around some with his claws. But the bottom line is, Behemoth would be so toad if he were in Skull Island. I would love to see him fight Kong. Although that probably won't be the case, but I mean, it'd be cool to see it fight something. Or at least give it more screen time. It had like 30 seconds worth of screen time in King of the Monsters. But let me know in the comments, where would you like to see Behemoth next? And do you hope to see him on Skull Island in the Godzilla vs. Kong film? Let me know in the comments section below, and like this video if you haven't yet. I am the Iceman. More videos to come.